So, Emma, I understand you, among others, have had one of these spiritual experiences. Is that a label you would give it? What label would you give it?
The label I've always given it is I called it a peak
A
experience.
peak experience. Okay. And you wrote to me about it. And you know, some people's peak experiences, like mine, just sort of showed up. In your case, it didn't just show up. You had a couple of things happen first. So why don't you just discuss what happened?
Okay, so I'm looking out the window and just trying to pretend I'm not in this carriage. And the train was going quite slowly past the point. I think we'd just come out of a station. And on the railway embankment, I saw an image that really captivated my attention and struck me. And it was an image of a sort of charity collection box, one which was very familiar here in the sort of 80s and 90s, which is when this happened to me. And it was probably not very politically correct these days. I don't see them anymore. This collection box was sort of a plastic moulding of a disabled child with wearing leg calipers, leg irons.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to stand them outside news agents for people to put money in. And this one had, I think, been robbed from outside of a newsagent's, and the contents raided. And the plastic boy had just been thrown onto the railway embankment. Well, that's what I surmised from this. It was sort of head down in a very undignified pose on this railway embankment. And as I went past it, this is where it gets really hard to describe. I suddenly just felt this sense of grief. There was something so pathetic about that image. And the pathos of it just hit me in the chest. And I just got overwhelmed with this sense of grief. And it got bigger and bigger. And it felt like it got too big for my little being to handle.
Mm-hmm.
It got too big. And I think it got so big that something in me switched. And that was the point where I just went into this other state. I don't know.
Hold on a minute, just a minute. This is anyway. So this overwhelming thing showed up. Continue.
Yeah. So I had this image. I saw the image of this plastic collection box. It filled me with grief. The grief got bigger and bigger, and I remember feeling this sense of pain. It wasn't physical pain. It was like a psychic, emotional. You could use the word spiritual. I don't know. At that stage, I wouldn't say it had got to a spiritual experience. It was just so damn painful. And something happened where I don't know if something exploded or if it imploded, but I just passed through a threshold into something else. And from a moment of pain that was so overwhelming I couldn't take it, it was like that popped, or a bubble popped. And I just found myself in a place of pure everything and nothing at the same time. A place of stillness and okayness, and like everything was complete. I just suddenly knew that everything was okay. And within that, I sort of lost sense of myself completely. It was like my little self melted away and I dissolved into something much bigger
Some people call that oneness. Would that be accurate in your case?
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was like oneness, completeness, wholeness,
Hmm.
and like there was no boundary, no barrier between me and the universe and beyond.
Because you all blended into the same, there were no distinctions in there.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's interesting about several things. I made a little note or two here as you were doing that. First of all, the way you got into it, when you first wrote it to me in the email that you sent to me, I thought it was different than mine, but in fact, I think they're the same. Now, mine was, I was simply very unhappy. I was frustrated no end with a list of things to do I'd created for myself. And I just said, who needs this, you know? And well, it's not the same thing as what you did. You actually got to a point of grief and pain that was so overwhelming
Yeah.
that, now these are going to be my words, but if they don't fit, you change them, okay?
Okay.
That you did what I did, and that is you let go of this world.
Yes, exactly that.
Okay.
The moment for me, and when I read your description of your experience, and I heard you talk about it also at the EFT gathering when you were on Skype in York,
Uh-huh.
and it was there that it was like a moment of recognition when you went, "Who needs all this?" or something like that.
Yeah.
And I recognized that moment. I didn't say those words, but I sort of thought, this is too much. There was something in me that recognized I couldn't hold this.
Yes.
And I didn't want to hold it.
Yeah. And what's fascinating, and I hope people listening in that haven't had this experience really kind of get onto this. Okay. I often describe that experience I had as though I was in a bubble previously. The bubble, the world of separated bodies, the world that our senses tell us is there. Okay. The sensory world. And it's like somebody took a pin and popped that bubble, and outside the bubble is nothing but this absolute, you call it completeness, I call it just nothing but love.
Yeah.
You know, and it's all there is. There isn't anything to compete with it. It's just there, and it's just, whoa, you know, and it's like it was always there. I tend to think of it as that is who we are, but we have developed in this separated state, this illusionary separated state, as quantum physics will tell us, okay?
Yeah.
This illusory state that this is the other state that came in, that's reality. This state we're in now isn't reality. It's like a dream that we're having we'll someday wake up from and go, what was that? You know? Now, that's me talking. Whatever. Does that fit, not fit? Would you add to it? What?
Yes, I know what you mean about the bubble, because it felt like my bubble in that moment got so full and overwhelming. And it was almost that, I think, looking back, that popped the bubble for me.
Yeah.
It's like the bubble got too full, too painful, too intense. And it was like I just let it go.
The balloon you were in, bubble, whatever, burst from the inside rather than being stuck by a pin, which was my way of saying it. Okay.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, this other state just came flooding in, and became, well, this is my words now, the real reality.
Yes. I didn't know what it was at the time because I didn't have a knower to know it.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I lost my knower.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I didn't know anything in that moment. I only know what I think I know now by looking back on it with my individual consciousness. but I don't know if my individual consciousness is adequate to describe what I knew in that moment.
Yeah. Okay, so how long did that moment last? Do you know?
Well, I lost sense of time in there. So
There is no time in it. That's why you lose
there
sense of
was
it.
no time.
Yeah.
There was no time. There was no time. There was no space. There was no separation between me and everything.
Right.
And so I had no sense of time there. But again, looking back, I know that the journey to London Bridge takes me 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that. And it was about 5 minutes into the journey. So I'm guessing it lasted about 20, I'm thinking 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. I don't know how long mine lasts. I'm guessing mine was 2 or 3 minutes, so I
Okay.
mean, but how do you know? It's interesting. And how do you explain to somebody what it's like to be in a state where there is no time? Because time here, I mean, you and I, you're going to go to bed tonight at a certain time. You got up this morning at a certain time. You're going to go to work at a certain time. You're going to eat at a certain time. Time is all over everything. In fact, I've got a little timer here on this recording. Okay,
Yeah.
time. It's everywhere.
We believe it's real.
We believe it's real, of course, but in that other state, poof.
And that's why it seems so still, because nothing was moving, nothing was before or after. Everything was happening in that moment.
Okay.
Everything.
So now here comes a nice philosophical question for you. Okay.
Okay.
If there is no beginning and no end, which is what you just said, no before, no after, or whatever, life in a body has a beginning and an end. There's a birth and a death. Does that mean there's no such thing as birth and death in that state, in that other state?
Well, there was no body in that state.
Mm-hmm.
That it didn't feel like there was a body because I wasn't in my body in that state.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing in that state there's no death, or birth and death and life and death is all the same thing and it doesn't matter anyway because you've transcended it.
Yeah. Another way to say it is this state we're in now, the state our senses tell us about,
Yeah.
is like a dream, an illusory, it's a mistake. Although it is convincingly real to us. Very convincing. I mean, I pinch myself. That hurts. I have a very real body that I have to feed and all that stuff. So do you. But it's a fascinating thing to recognize, both by quantum physics and other spiritual things, writings, like A Course in Miracles. There's others, and like this discussion you and I are having, which I'm having with other people as well. It's pretty hard to ignore that another state exists. The world beyond our senses is what I'm calling it. That's what both you and I tripped into. So what would another philosophical question? And you probably never thought about this, so just do your best, okay?
Okay.
Suppose you were able to access that state again and maintain it permanently, and I was able to do the same thing, and so was everyone else on the planet able to do that. How would our world be?
How would our world be? Well, I don't know if there would be there wasn't a world for me in that state. There was no such thing.
There would not be a world as we know it.
No, there's no world.
Yes.
It's the no world order.
If you read quantum physics and some of these other documents I'm talking about, one of the phrases that is used is, there's no out there. This world is really a projection. Now, we're getting into real theory here, okay?
Okay.
But it's like we are all one, as you and I experienced. Everything is one, not separate little bodies running around.
Yep.
I look out the window. There is no tree out there. although they're a separate tree, there appears to be one, nor is there a driveway, and so on. Okay, all of this stuff is one. There is no separation whatsoever. There are no bodies, so nothing has to be fed. Nothing has to be sheltered. Nobody needs any money. What would you need money for? It'd be a useless thing, would it not? Yeah. And so this world, if you will, I'm going to call it the real world, is really something for us to pursue. And that's what I'm trying to do with, this discussion we're having of my optimal EFT and other things that we're developing, is to have us pursue these things in these directions. That doesn't mean we're going to be successful in my lifetime. Maybe it's going to take lots of lifetimes. I don't know. But we can at least start approaching it and get better and better at it, and get more loving, if you will, and climb this ladder of excellence. And sooner or later, the need for things like wars, even though we may not be perfectly evolved, but the need for wars, the problem of hunger and poverty and stuff, which doesn't need to be, there's plenty for everyone, it tends to get solved gradually, and we end up recognizing there's nothing but love, and all the rest of it is immaterial.
Yeah.
Nice kind of fun conversation, but I think it's not only real, but I think it's doable in time.
But I think my sense of it is, because since that experience, I've had glimpses of it. And I think it's there all the time.
It is.
And I don't know if we need to do anything.
Well, yeah, you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything when you finally let go of this world.
No.
Nor did I do anything. I think there are worthwhile exercises to do to prepare us for it, and to start reducing some of the blocks to the awareness of all this love's presence. And that's what my optimal EFT is about. That's what EFT itself is about, in a way, So anyway, yeah, we're preparing down there. But yes, it's like it belongs to us. It's our birthright, and we are just sort of keeping it at bay.
Yeah, and I sort of get why we keep it at bay. I mean, I never talk about this with anyone. When I heard you talk about it at that gathering in York, I got really excited, and for the first time thought, wow, maybe we can talk about this stuff.
Yeah.
When I've tried to talk about it, that day I told everybody that would listen what had just happened, and they all moved away from me, Gary.
Oh, they did. That's interesting, because when I was talking to them, because I could see the whole audience,
Yeah.
and I forgot what question I asked, but it looked like a number of them were really into it.
In New York, certainly they were. On that day in London, 20 years ago. I'm not talking about the gathering. I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The day it happened.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
London Bridge. I went off to my destination and I told everyone, and then I came home and I told everyone, and for the next week or two I told everyone, and I could see people shrink back in fear, and it's fear that obscures it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
I think it's fear.
Yeah, they have nothing in their belief system to really make sense of it, so it just seems kind of odd and so on. But I'm trying to with conversations like this, I'm trying to turn that corner so people have more and more exposure to it, even though they haven't experienced it yet.
Yeah. I think it's fear that gets in the way. And I think also the moment I thought, oh, what happened? It's like my Noah came back into me.
Yeah.
and for a moment, I think the fear came in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that perhaps lost the experience. And subsequently, because other people have labelled it semi-psychotic, oh, you just experienced depersonalization, that's a psychotic symptom, you were on the verge of psychosis. that stuff, it's that fear that gets in the way of this. And maybe that's why we've created all these individual boundaries for ourselves, because it's so big, so vast, that for our little egos, it's just too big to hold, which was sort of the moment I had before I went into the state.
Well,
This is too big.
I'm glad you said that, because there's not a simple answer that I can give you in 30 seconds to a minute or in this conversation. But I'm going to develop, the whys of all of that and the deeper technology and theories and spirituality, et cetera, in that for people to borrow from or adopt or reject or whatever they want to do. But I'm going to be doing that over time. But we need to establish a good solid base first, So
Yes.
anyway, Emma, what a delight. Thank you for all your insights, your experience, and everything. And I'm sure people are going to learn a lot from this. So.